Hey everybody, we're the good doctors of Abbey Research. I'm Dr. Erin.
I'm Dr. Kristen.
You are very welcome today to our channel. We are PhDs. We are social scientists who love having conversations about lived and pop culture. We are educators who focus on the dueling concepts of empathy and inclusivity, and we do so through conversations, oh Lord, about everything. This week alone, we've covered James Charles on our GDD live on Monday. And what else? We had some book reviews up. We're all over the show. We're talking about Miss Scarlet and the Duke. If we can talk about it, we will. If we can talk about it with you, that's even better. So make sure wherever you are watching and or listening to this, you like, subscribe, join us, and comment below to let us know your thoughts and feelings. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Indeed. We even have two separate YouTube channels now, one for the content that we watch and one for the content that we read. So make sure if you're subscribed to this one that you're also subscribed to Abbey Research Reads. But speaking of watching things, this video is an example of our commitment to cover streaming things that we watch. And in particular right now, we're talking about a couple movies over the next couple weeks that have been nominated for Academy Awards. I cannot remember when the Academy Awards will be given out because I don't actually think that anyone, there's no schedule anymore. So we'll probably be talking about these things after the awards are given out as well.
Yeah, we will be. I think they're the end of April.
Okay, and we're recording this at the beginning. But we are people who like awards because they both don't matter at all and deeply matter because it's how it signals to Hollywood what else should be made. And so we want to focus on the stories about people other than white men. And we've covered nearly all of them. There's a couple that are just we're not going to watch Spike Lee's war movie. I'm sorry, we just can't unless you really, really need us to, and then let us know. But mostly we're covering everything else. Today, we've already covered Crip Camp, which is a documentary up for Best Documentary Feature. Today is Minari, which is up for many awards, including Best Picture. It is the story of a Korean-American immigrant family in the 1980s in Arkansas. I can't tell you, the minute I saw the little boy's shorts, I was like, oh, we are in 1983. It's immediate. And the summary of the movie is that it's this family trying to be family in a new place and what that looks like. The parents are indigenous Koreans. They immigrated over. Their children are Americans, and kind of what that looks like and that tension. It stars Steven Yeun. I believe I'm saying that correctly. He needs to be cast in everything immediately. As well as, my IMDb just gave up on me. Yeri Han stars his wife, Monica. The very famous around the internet these days, Alan Kim, is the young son, David. And then Noelle Cho is the older sister, Anne, who is the unsung hero of this movie.
Anne is something fierce, man.
And then grandma is Yoon Jung-yoon, who is one of the most, my eyes could not leave her face when she was on screen. The vibrancy of her acting was insane.
And she just won a SAG award a couple of weeks ago for this role for Best Supporting Actress, and it could not be more deserved.
I don't love slow movies. I'm very famous in my friend circle for not liking slow movies.
We call them middle distance movies because it's like you're staring into the middle distance.
And usually at some point, a character will stand with their hands on their hips and stare into the middle distance.
TV shows and films that are middle distance are not Dr. Kristen's bag, y'all.
Not for me. At all. And yet this is laminated into my soul. There is something about the pace of this movie that doesn't feel slow. It just feels intimate.
Yeah.
In a way that I cannot fathom how you pull off. And yet they did.
It is one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of films, and I don't say that lightly. It will stay with me for a long, long time. The music was phenomenal. The cinematography. It was one of those perfect conflagration of all the things that are necessary to make art in this format.
Yeah.
The acting, phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
The writing, so powerful. Like running out of adjectives for how fantastic it was. You know, and I think this movie would have been impactful and valuable always, whenever it was made. But the fact that it is out in a time in the United States in which we are seeing a dramatic and horrific increase in violence and assault against Asian Americans and Asian immigrants in America, it's incredibly prescient and timely for that, because it deals with what it's like to not be from the place where you're living and to not speak the language and to not look like the other people in your small Arkansas town. Did I know there was such an industry for chicken sexing?
Did I know what chicken sexing was?
Nope. No is the answer. It's where you check the sex of the chicken, and if you're a female chick, you get to live, and if you're a male chick, you get incinerated. So think about that the next time you have some fried chicken. I don't know if we still do that, but we probably do. But for me, the you know, there's the obvious kind of tensions of the Native Koreans, Jacob and Monica, and their sons, a son and daughter, their children who are American, and this tension of like being Korean, but the kids speak English and want to do American things or don't want to do Korean things. So that's, I think, almost ever present when you get like multi-generational migrant stories. But the other thing that I thought was so beautifully done was the tension between Jacob and Monica about what they wanted from their life in America.
Yeah.
And they had been living in California. Like Jacob is a chicken sexing savant. He's exceptionally good and fast at determining the sex of chicks. And so he was very, you know, it's not fun labor. It's manual labor. It's all day standing or sitting. It doesn't look like a good time, but they made money and they were living well. And he moved them to Arkansas because he wanted to buy a farm and grow Korean.
He didn't just move them to Arkansas. He moved them to Arkansas in a trailer that is so far out of everything, it does not have running water.
Yes. Because he bought a plot of land so that he could grow Korean vegetables and sell them to Korean markets, because there's an influx of Korean immigrants in America, which is a genius idea. But moving your family from California to Arkansas to live in a trailer in the woods,
when your son has a heart condition.
Jacob struggled with some forethought. But the tension between the two of them, that what life needed to be for Monica was safety and comfort.
Yep.
They left a conflict zone in Korea for a reason, and it was not to take risks. But for Jacob, his perspective was, what are we doing here if we're not taking risks?
We survived a conflict zone. Yeah. We have one wild and precious life. This is what we do with it. And that underpins so many of the relationships. That's why Grandma comes from Korea to live with them. It's the why of a lot of things that happen. And the dance between the two of them was like captivating. And I think it was it's a less common perspective to take when you're looking at kind of a film that deals with immigration in that way. And then you can take from that marriage and raising children and, you know, intergenerational family households and like all of that stuff. But it really was like, it covered them all. But for me, I think that's what I will remember most, is the way that those perspectives and those relationships and the way they talked about their marriage and how they felt about each other as two humans who had left Korea and moved to America. And they were supposed to, like, what was the phrase they used? Like, save each other? Yeah, I think so. That sounds familiar.
We were supposed to save each other and we didn't. Like, whoo. Yeah.
kind of piggybacking on that, what I really loved is that everybody was a human being in this movie.
What?
And they were allowed to be human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the movie didn't judge any of them.
Mm-mm.
So even the like even the racist kids,
yeah,
they weren't judged. It was just very clearly like, this is kids in Arkansas in the 80s, and this is how this is, and these are the questions people ask at church potlucks, and the guy whose faith is very Pentecostal, that's what this would look like. And the carrying a cross thing is a thing, by the way. It's not random. That's a thing in a lot of Pentecostal faith systems. There's a guy who carries a cross around Waco, for instance, every single Easter, every single Good Friday and Easter weekend. It's very popular in the Philippines, actually. Filipino Christians have whole festivals where there's like a Pamplona running of the bulls style, where hundreds of thousands of people carry their crosses through the streets.
Yes, I've seen like footage of that. Yeah.
So it's not this outlier thing that this character in Arkansas did. All of that funny talking was speaking in tongues. That's a very, very common belief system in Pentecostal Christianity, which is the belief that the Holy Spirit is within you all the time and is kind of acts for you in some ways. That is so incredibly reductionistic, but take it as it is right now. Jacob was obviously so skeptical and couldn't do with it and couldn't handle it. The very first time you're around somebody that speaks in tongues, it's weird. And yet the movie didn't think he was weird. Jacob did. And that difference is so essential in when you're telling human stories. And Coach Yost, just from Remember the Titans, just different look for our friend Coach Yost. But I really loved his character. I really loved the like random, I mean, this is semi-autobiographical from the director. So like, I'm assuming that guy existed in his life.
In some form, yeah.
I'm so glad he didn't leave that guy out of this story.
Yeah, and he's like the only really white person that gets a significant speaking role. Because
he loves, bulgogi, and he loves spicy, and he loves kimchi, and
he served in Korea. I did not recognize Coach Yost, and I had to look him up on the IMDb, and I was like, oh my god. But the movie would have been poor if it wasn't for that character. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Every human was done empathetically, even the kids that were racist at the church.
Like because they were earnestly asking questions. They were faced with difference and asked a question. And the thing I loved about the Coach Yost character too was just the reminder that all of us who are misfits tend to find each other. And my best friend circles are where like all of us were misfits and we came together, and that's the strongest bonds that we have.
Yeah.
So I loved that. So this is currently not streaming anywhere for free. It's produced by the studio A24, which is really independent still. Like, I'm not even sure it's not considered not independent, if that makes sense. So it's as of this recording, $20 to rent, and worth every penny, to be completely honest. I don't know if when you watch this, it will be streaming somewhere. I'm hoping as an Academy Award winner, it is streaming somewhere. But right now in the beginning of April, it is not. However, I've paid more for worse movies.
Oh, and for sure.
This is absolutely worth the sit. Please watch this movie. I was thinking as we were prepping for this recording, I would not have wanted to watch this movie if it was about white people, because I've seen this movie about white people before.
Many times.
I've seen this movie. I'm good. I've seen this story. But it was so refreshing and so different from such a different cultural perspective that it's a brand new story.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so intimate. It is life with these people and what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, we all pay more than $20 to go see movies in the cinema in the before times. So this is actually, you're getting off like cheaper, because you could pay more than that if you saw Minari in theaters.
Yeah. And you don't have to eat someone else's popcorn.
Yeah. Or wear a mask the whole time you're watching the film. Yeah. I don't remember what we're covering next, but I'm excited.
I do. I just looked it up, actually. Okay.
Good.
We're going to be covering, and this one is streaming on Hulu.
On the
We're going to
Hulu.
be covering the United States versus Billie Holiday.
Yes, I can't wait to talk about this one.
Which has scored a nomination for Andre Day.
Yeah.
And we are stoked to cover this. Again, another historical drama about a community we don't talk about all that often, except for we're talking about it more in more spaces, and we here at Abbey Research are so grateful. So in the meantime, between now and we see you, across both of our channels, we've got tons and tons of content around the conversations about inclusivity and empathy, and also just sarcasm and giggles. So we hope you spend a little bit more time with us between now and our coverage of the Billie Holiday movie. And if not, we'll see you then.
Take care, everybody.